so here's me. I am a little bit of a contradiction. So I did over 20 years in the world of big corporate. I was marketing director at Johnson & Johnson in Maidenhead for Northern Europe. I was marketing director of a company called McCormick, that are the world's largest manufacturer of herbs and spices. I've done a lot of that kind of big corporate thing. I've also started 4 successful businesses, one in the kind of fair trade world, one a consultancy called Henley Marketing, which is a little bit dormant now because everything else is so busy. A homewares brand called Eco Home, where things were made in China. So I know a lot about China and manufacturing. And this latest venture, Reborn, that I launched last year, although it was a little bit while in the making, that's all UK based. I'm also a big cyclist, family guy. I do coaching of my son's football team, and my kind of North Star from the point of view of certainly provision business is this idea that of people, planet, profit. So my sense is that we face 2 existential threats in the world. One is to do with people inequality and people not getting on, and the planet change, climate change. But I feel that we can tackle these. We can do a better way. We can work in a better way, both for people and for planet. And ultimately, profit is the best way we can achieve that, which is part of what Reborn is all about. So what is Reborn? Reborn is a new brand. If you go into a John Lewis, any John Lewis, High Wycombe, or wherever is your closest, you will see a lovely display of these items, which I will hold up here. And so we collect waste, and all in the UK, and we turn it into things of beauty. And that is what Reborn is all about. It's the first, and I think only, fully circular homewares brand. So what that means is that there's quite a lot of chat about recycled, and people are familiar with that word, and it's quite a warm, positive word, but often recycled or recyclable can end up being downcycling. So it ends up perhaps in roads or storm boards or things that don't necessarily have as much value as they could have. So what we're trying to do is to do things that are circular. So we collect waste film that looks a little bit like this, that you might wrap your fruit and veg in if you were going to supermarkets. I've got a slide here. Oh yeah, here you go. So it looks like that at the top. And we clean it, we shred it. Well, I say we, it's our partners at Biffa. They supply it at our factory in Wiltshire that looks a little bit like this on the bottom left-hand side. So it's pellets of polypropylene, which we then mold into these items of beauty that you might have in your home. So this is all done locally in the UK. And not only that, is that if anything was to be broken, you lose a part, for example, it's all what you call circular by design. So most of these products that you get in the in say John Lewis today would be co-molded of different materials together, which means that if you lose anything, if you break anything, it can't even be recycled. It's very difficult to repair. All ours are different components. I'll just stop sharing just for a moment. I'll show you my lovely dish rack, which is made of different elements. So this is lovely recycled Yorkshire steel, and it's a separate component to the base rack, which means that if you were to kind of, anything that could be end of life, it could be repaired or recycled. It's a lovely circular. It's called circular by design, that method. I'm going to share my screen again. So you have to build that into the kind of thinking in order to get fully circular. And we've even got a regrinding machine. So if there was any waste on the line, or if someone returned an item because it was broken or whatever, we could grind that back down and turn it into a new item. So Biffa were my partner. Brunel University were a key partner in it, or are a key partner in this. They did the life cycle assessment. They test the products for dishwasher proof and all that good stuff. We got a grant. I got a grant from Innovate UK and some financial support from an investment from Virgin and a VC as well. So a lot of people involved in it, but ostensibly the main kind of claims are it's made locally, it's made from recycled materials, and you can save almost 80% of the carbon emissions versus if you were to make the equivalent items in the Far East. And so far, since we launched in September, we have saved 85,000 kilos worth of waste, and we've saved 119,000 kilos of carbon emissions. So good start. We're only 5 months in, but that's us. Here's the story we present to consumers. We say, look, you can buy, say, a washing up bowl from the Far East, and I'm sure it's a perfectly reasonable washing up bowl, but that would all of the elements of transportation, manufacturing, shipping to the store and to your home would be 17 kilos worth of carbon emissions. You buy it locally from us from recycled materials, and it's 79% less, and it's all. There's other benefits as well, of course. You've got investing in the local economy, paying local tax, you're investing in skills, all sorts of good things. So we look on waste as a raw material. We kind of play around with the fact that we love waste because it's you can turn it into things of beauty, and we've invested quite a lot, or I've invested quite a lot of time and money in terms of getting to a place where the packaging is very joyful and aspirational. And what we found, interestingly enough, was that when we tested this with consumers, the fact that it was made locally resonated more than double the proportion than the fact that it was recycled or fully circular. So that story of provenance that Ollie wanted me to talk to you about actually is interesting, because despite all the noise of sustainability, which is big and so important, but it's more of a parity play. So if you've got two products side by side, and one is sustainable and one is not, then people, yes, will gravitate towards it. But if you bring a significant amount of price disadvantage into play or other factors, then sadly, still to this day, sustainability doesn't always force people to change their behavior, much as they might say it does. The reality is something different, whereas provenance moves the needle a lot more. People love the fact that it's made locally, particularly, funnily enough, John Lewis consumers. So this is the products that we have developed. Dish racks, cutlery drainers, hangers, and there's a whole massive pipeline of new products on top of this. But at the moment, it's just eight products in different SKUs. This is what it looks like if you were to go into a John Lewis in Reading. Well, this is what it looks like after I've kind of dressed the stand a little bit more and made it look pretty. But you can see the storytelling of the UK, the local manufacturing is one of the first things you see there, which is key to all this. And the same with online. Someone kindly called our washing up bowls the Rolls Royce of washing up bowls, so I might just have to kind of frame that review. It's a really lovely to see the consumer reaction. We were on the BBC a few weeks ago. We were on front page of various different kind of more trade titles and in lots of consumer press. So the reaction's been quite positive. Some nice pick up in social media across all the usual suspects. Helped by my 14-year-old son. TikTok is currently where I'm getting the most engagements. I can't possibly tell you if that's useful or not. I have no clever marketing funnel that tells me if that converts to purchase. So that's a bit of context. I'm going to now just ask you a little bit, if you could pop in the chat, despite all of those wonderful things, why don't you think we manufacture in the UK? So can you just, if you can think of a good reason not to do, I've just told you why I make something in the UK, but why might we not do this? Because as you probably know, the vast majority of products that we consume today aren't made in the UK. Yeah, I got a first answer, which is a very true yes. A couple of people saying cost of labor, yes. Um, yes, cost is a massive point. Price point and timings. Yeah, the suppliers, lack of infrastructure. Yeah, very true, very true. I'm going to give you, so we've, and quality as well. Yes, quality. A lot of people just assume, I think, that the UK is perhaps um, better quality, and sadly, that isn't always the case. This stainless steel rack, for example, when I got it first compared, the China version versus the Yorkshire version, the Yorkshire version was 4 times the price. So not 4% more, but 4 times the price. So it was £9 versus $2.60 or something like that, which is around about 4 times the difference. And not only that, but the quality of the China product was superior as well. So we had to do a hell of a lot of work to get that. So yes, cost, capability. So because we've outsourced, and somebody else said that in terms of the suppliers and the infrastructure, because we've spent so many years outsourcing our manufacturing to the Far East, it has left to some skills gaps. So there used to be apparently over 40 tool makers in the High Wycombe area alone, and now there's one. And that is effectively means all of that knowledge base has gone. So we had some very specific tools that we needed for this product, because the recycled plastic um, doesn't react in an injection molding machine the same way that a normal virgin plastic was. So that tooling expertise we really struggled to find in the UK. Other reasons that I put, so I think, yeah, people have effectively, you've answered really by saying 1, 2, and 3, I think. There is, because a lot of people, you'll have had this, are after, when they're investing in a new business, they want to know that it's scalable. And part of being scalable is being global. So part of being global means perhaps having one point of manufacture. So that naturally fights against having local manufacturing, of course. There's a natural tendency between, or conflict between, saying I want to be scalable, therefore I want to be global, therefore I want to get rid of local manufacturing. And also there's a belief, which is true in some instances, that there's no need and people don't care. That made in UK, made in China message on the bottom of your iPhone, does it affect the fact that you choosing an Apple phone over any other or any other category? Not necessarily. So there are lots of barriers. Okay, let's think more positively now. I'm going to ask you the same question in the chat. Why might okay, despite all of that I've just said, why should we invest in local manufacturing? What are positive reasons for finding a UK manufacturing partner for your business? What might be the opposite of that? If you can just have a quick think or chat put in the chat. Easier to manage, lower carbon footprint. What was that other one? Sorry. Improve local economy. Yes. Job creation, self-sufficiency. Yeah. Technology. Yeah, there is often some expertise here. Not always, but there is some expertise. Yes. Issues with global supply chain, PR, environmental reasons. Love it. Brilliant. Awesome. Government support. Yes. There are grants available. Yes. Not lots, but there are some. Local community involvement. Yes. Transport time. Yeah. Transport time and cost. Brilliant. Love it. Love it. Thank you, guys. Because sometimes you look at this and go, why do I do this? Because UK manufacturing has been quite a headache. Yes, engage kids and the whole community in it, supporting education. It's aspirational. Love it. Amazing. Look, you've come up with actually probably richer answers than I've got here. But yes, there are some cost advantages from local manufacturing. lower transport costs for me because I'm shipping from Wiltshire as opposed to Jiangmen, which is where I got my eco bins from. Storage can be a little bit cheaper because you've only got one storage locally. Sometimes costs can be okay in the UK when for certain types of products where you can automate. So sometimes actually the cost dynamic is less than you think for going to China. It's not always the best option from a cost perspective. Yes, sustainability. A few of you mentioned sustainability. That's absolutely huge. So lower carbon, and it's obviously I couldn't make a circular solution. Even if I was making recycled products, it wouldn't be circular if the only place I could remake it into new products was shipping it back to the Far East. So there is a shift in the dynamic from of the sustainability world, I think, of talking about recycled to talking more about circularity. And circularity, by definition, requires a degree of locality in terms of both where you source a product from and what happens to the end of life. And then, yeah, a few of you have mentioned the operational issues, the fact that there's been so much. 6 years ago, I was paying $1,500 per container. Then at the peak of COVID, it went up to almost $20,000 per container. So an incredible increase. Then it went down to a year ago. It was down to, I think I only paid $900 per container. And then most recently, the quotes I've seen are up to $4,000 or $5,000 plus an extra 2 weeks for if you want to avoid the Red Sea. So there's a huge amount of awareness now in supply chain that global supply chains aren't the resilient, both from a financial and delivery perspective. With my team in Wiltshire, the guys in my last meeting with John Lewis, they said, look, can you make it in such and such a color? And can you do it by May? And they said, yes. So it was a huge, the fact that we had local manufacturing meant that we could say yes to John Lewis. And then another couple of answers touched on this. The fact that you're working with a local partner leads to a whole deeper level of personal partnership. You know, I know Rob, the guy that knows that works my line. I know all the people that work on it. I invest time in those relationships. They talk to me when there are issues. You know, these things are much harder to do when you've got time, language, distance barriers. And yes, the storytelling, actually maybe more than just consumer. A couple of you mentioned there in terms of whether you're talking to your children, whether you're talking to the communities of which those, you know, we've got local news in Milksham featuring, we've got BBC Points West coming to our factory. These things are lovely parts of the storytelling, which bring this whole proposition to life. So obviously I'm a fan, but not in all instances. So if you're considering UK manufacturing, I would go back one step to say, okay, what's the market? I mean, which is almost part of what marketing and what business is all about, of course, is to say, okay, what's the gap we're after? I was after a gap in the market for local circular homewares, which led me to UK manufacturing, not the other way around. I didn't start with UK manufacturing. I worked out what was important to the consumer customer, and for me, local manufacturing was important, and also it was important to John Lewis as well. That helped me with those listings. The whole magic of bringing a business to life is for me, to do with connections. And probably, I think for each one of you, if you think about what it is that makes your business special, to me, it's how you bring different parts of your history and your network together to create a unique set of resource and capability. And that's a lot, obviously, what a startup and stand up is, you know, true to that ethos. The magic of a group like this that you're in and other groups that you're in is that unique network is the value. And I think UK manufacturing is an extra strand that you can build into that in a way that globalization doesn't, kind of almost ignores, if you like. Then obviously support, like I used, or I did a Virgin Startup Accelerator program as a way that I was able to get from this just being a pipe dream, an idea, through to launch, and having local manufacturing was a key part of that investor story, and bringing them along the journey and inviting them to come and, inviting Holly Branson to come and see the factory and doing filming there and all that good stuff. That was just all part of the investor story. And then obviously I met a lot of bad UK manufacturers along the journey. I think I mean, I've got three at the moment. I've got the guys that make my steel racks. I've got the plastic manufacturer in Wiltshire, and I've got the guys in Dorset that make the packaging. So, but I would say for each one of those that I've ended up with, there were maybe 10 that I couldn't work with, or that refused to work with me as well. It's quite hard. It was quite surprising sometimes when you meet so many people that don't want to do business. I think in a group like this, startup to stand up, I think you can almost take it as read that people are expansive, people are open-minded, people are interested in new ideas and how to grow together. But that was nowhere near the case with me. There was one comedy, and I will not mention their name or even the sector, but there was one moment where I turned up to a meeting with the managing director of a manufacturing business, and the guy opened the door in a football shirt to me in a building that was perhaps 100 years old and with dirt everywhere and just crap everywhere around him. Just looked to me and said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Well, I've got a meeting with so-and-so, MD." And he just looked to me, and after a pause said, "Nah, you don't want to meet him." I'm like, "I've got a meeting with this guy. He's the MD." And he's like, "All right, better follow me then." And we walked through this kind of maze of just crap everywhere, which was a manufacturing site. Yeah, I mean, just and we rocked up in this office of the MD, and he looked up from and the MD, and the guy with the football shirt had long since left. He said, "Oh, he's over there." And I knocked on the door, and he looked up at me and said, "Yeah." I was like, "We've got a meeting. I'm Brian from Reborn." "Oh, I thought you were coming tomorrow." I was like, "No, it was in the diary for today." Uh, and it was just like the comedy of errors in everything. And I was asking about ISO. Did he have health and safety? Like, none of this stuff just resonated. And him and his business have been somehow clinging on for years. And needless to say, we didn't work together. But anyway, a long rambling story to say, look, I've had to kiss a lot of frogs to get to the three magic princes or princesses that I'm working with today. And I'm sure there will be. And the only reason I stuck with it actually was why it's linked to point number 5 is because I have this North Star of people, planet, profit. So if I was just about cheapest manufacturing, I would have long since given up on at least one of those three manufacturing routes, either the plastic, the steel, or the packaging, probably the steel. My final slide, and then I'll turn it open to questions, you're not alone if you want to go down this route. So for me, if you are remotely interested in UK manufacturing, then there are three kind of pillars that you would kind of expand. One is about networking. That's what this is all about. That's what your LinkedIn group that you will have. And I'm always amazed when you just spend 5 or 10 minutes just looking through your own LinkedIn network or the people that you've had in your own experience. Oh yeah, we used to work with them, that they're now at this company, or they know that company, or it's just incredible. And Ollie's the master at this. Just your wider network is phenomenal. And that is where I was able to get at least 2 of my 3 princes that we ended up was actually through networking. The third came from Make UK. So Made in Britain is the more famous logo. And if you want to shout about it, that's the one to use. However, if you actually want to reach the people manufacturing and you want to network with them, or then Make UK, obviously got to join, and I think it was like £300 or £400 a year. It was something, but not nothing, and not huge amount. Then they were amazing. And then this whole world of accelerator program was transformational for me. So Virgin, I would never have got this idea from idea to launch if it wasn't for the Virgin stuff. a grant that I got from together with Brunel University and BIFA that helped fund all the product testing, material development, and life cycle assessment. So that is me. I hope it was useful. I hope there was some nugget, because not everyone's in this world of manufacturing. But I hope there was some nuggets in there that you found interesting, relevant. But yes, please, any questions, I guess, of any kind.
Brian, that was wonderful. Any questions for Brian? Here's one coming from Mark, wanting to know what's your next location in the UK?
Yeah, I think part of the reason behind the question, Brian, was sorry, I should have put my hand up. Was
Yeah.
I remember working with Saver Centre years ago, and they were very proud that with their store location algorithms said with 6 stores, which I think from memory were Washington, Basildon, Albury, Calcott, and somewhere in Scotland, they were within 10 minutes drive of 15% of the population. So what occurs to me is, as you expand in the UK, the location has multiple issues.
Yeah.
But so that was just intrigued.
Yeah,
great talk. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, for this, it's a consumer good, so I want this. There's 2 answers to that question. One is locations from the point of view of retail outlet. So this is it. This is currently now in all 34 John Lewis stores, and hopefully fairly soon it'll be in Dunelm next, and obviously Amazon and B&Q and others. So there's that, if you like, location. And then in terms of if you like, collecting of waste and sourcing of the circularity, that requires a take back scheme. So I'm working with those guys, and I don't have it today, but the idea being that you could drop off your waste at a John Lewis, at a Dunelm, etc., and we will then turn that back into. At the moment, the only place you can do that is one place in Wiltshire, but it's coming. It's definitely the dream, and that's the great way. That's the magic ingredient I think for the UK population, because at the moment you put stuff in your recycle bin at home and you don't really know what happens to it, right? A lot of it gets burnt, some of it maybe get landfill, or it's got contaminants. What actually happens? Whereas if you know that you could drop off your old chopping boards in a John Lewis, or and here, by the way, here's a fiver for doing it, and the product next to it is made from that very same material, then that's the dream. That's what I'm after. So yeah, it's coming. Thanks, Mark. It's coming.
Thanks, Mark. We've got some great questions coming in, but I'm going to go to Neil first.
Hi, Brian. Fantastic talk. Really enjoyed it. I'm also a fellow cyclist and parent coach. I even got around to sponsoring the team. So I don't know if you've gone that far yet. Having your own football team like Sir Jim Ratcliffe is the way to go, I think. No, I work in the service industry, and when I set up on my own, I've had a principle in what I do. I always like to work with partners who are based in the UK. I work in digital and etc. And there's always an option to offshore because the price point is so much lower.
Yeah.
Now with manufacturing in the UK, there's an element which sometimes feel is a bit of a middle class luxury to be able to afford those products. Similarly, like with organic food or moving UPF or all those kind of things, because the price point is higher. Do you think we're on a pathway to be able to actually start tackling the massive, at the lower price points, to be able to actually manufacture in the UK and actually have a real impact to getting the UK privilege or the UK option to across all market streams or wider?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good point. If it comes to metal, then the answer is no. I just 4 times the price, right? So where we've got, but however, when it comes to plastics, and we can automate, and we've got the raw material here, then I'm there or thereabouts. I can make a washing up bowl not a million miles away from what you can make it in China. Plus, I can save on the shipping, which helps, and 1 or 2 other things. So it's very sector specific. Same with capability. We don't have a lot of steel capability, but we do have more injection molding capability. So I think that's a really bad way of saying it depends. I think so. I think in certain sectors, absolutely, and we need to be confident and putting made in Britain and screaming about it and saying, yeah, here's our point of difference, where we can, and where we can't, we have to close those gaps. And sadly, steel is one of those massive gaps where, but partly it's due to government. There's so many other issues facing the steel industry, you know, macro, you know, government subsidies going on in different parts of the world and so on. So that, yeah, there are more structural issues going on. But yeah, good question. I think some we can, definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. Before I switch to Peter, I want to cover some of the questions in the chat. So Oriana puts, what is the split between your online and physical retail sales?
Yeah, really interesting. So for my previous brand, Eco Home, it was about 60-70% online, only about 30-40% in store. It's the reverse here. So the majority of these sales, 70%, yeah, about 70%, is in physical stores. So people are, that story of, or maybe it's partly to do with discovering a new brand a little bit, and the fact that it's so colorful and interesting when you kind of see it in store, that maybe lends itself better than when you just, you know, go into a search engine and search for hangers. Then it's quite hard to tell that story. People are just more in shopping mode. So yeah, that's the answer, is this is more physical.
And question from Chris, looking at scalability, do you think your UK manufacturers will be at scale with you?
Yeah, yes. I mean, that's why that was part of the selection criteria. So I wouldn't, there were some that were just too small. One in High Wycombe, lovely team, but you know, it was just one person really in a show. It would have fallen over if we'd scaled. So yeah, there are not, you can't assume it, but we short answer is yes. Yeah.
Peter.
Hi, that was a great presentation, and it's good to see I mean, the industry that you're producing, that you're in, is great. We'd like to, you know, I'd like to see more of that. And I mean, I'm from the composites industry, and my products will be composite based, where we do have a bit of a problem. There is some recycling going on, but and it goes to the point that was made in the chat about wind turbine blades being chucked on, you know, just being scrapped and not being reused when the large amounts of material that they have in them, that Louisa brought up. But is your business based on, with your if you go into expansion, are you basing it on the processes that you have, like plastic injection molding, or are you looking at other processes as well as other materials, or is it just based on polypropylene? And going into the composite industry, you obviously have a lot of plastics, but they're contaminated with, well, not necessarily contaminated, they have reinforcement in them of glass fiber, carbon fiber, that still have potential life in them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea of Reborn is that we want to be able to do it with any material. So at the moment, yes, you're right. It's just polypropylene, steel, and TPE, thermoplastics. But I'd love to do glass. I'd love to do mix, anything that we can kind of, if you like, upcycle, circular in the future. And yeah, I won't be looking to. I would love to do this, say, in other parts of the world, like North America, etc. But what we would do is we'd export, if you like, the brand, the IP, the processes, but we wouldn't export UK waste to North America. It would kind of go against the whole process. We'd be looking to find one or two partners in North America where you're recycling local waste and doing it. So yes, definitely want to do new materials. But yeah.
So if I'm starting with a new product, it'd be a good idea to talk to you about the materials that I'm using as to their future recyclability.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to talk about circularity for any material. I'd love to find a better way to do it with glass, for example, and different metals. Yeah, looking at biopolymers, but from the point of view of waste recovery of biomaterials, not growing crops for biomaterials.
Yeah.
So yeah, very good.
Great, thank you.
I used to sell a lot of polypropylene into manufacturers such as Biffa.
Oh yeah.
And I was in a meeting with Biffa once. They used to buy barrels of polypropylene from us.
Yes.
And I said, what about, and it was under NDA, we invest in a fleet of fishing vessels that we can take out and fish for plastics, right?
Love it.
And align it just to the UK.
Yeah.
And they said, that's too wild. I said, is it? That was probably about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But think about that. Think about what you're after. The effect of that being out there, electric fishing vehicles, sustainable vessels, going out into the oceans, protecting the oceans at the same time as using that plastic for good.
Yeah.
Is that too wild?
No, not at all. I mean, well, I don't know about the method, the kind of, because I always use carbon. You have to kind of look at the energy of doing that versus the energy of So, but the principle of ocean waste, turning that into beautiful new products, absolutely. That there's already a market opening up in that area is magic. Love it, absolutely. So that's effectively what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to say, take waste that you're just talking about there. It's just a different source of waste, right? Waste from the ocean, turn it into something beautiful. Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly.
And the government would be right behind that, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought I'd share that with you this morning.
Yeah.
One more questions. Oriane says in the chat, are the life cycles of your products longer than your competitors' products?
They're broadly comparable. So that's one of the tests. So Brunel University do drop tests, they do dishwasher tests, they do weatherproofing. So they put it in they've got a test for, putting it in the sunlight, and tensile strength. They pull it apart. They've got machines that pull, very clever. And so we benchmark our products, and they're broadly speaking parallel. So we'd expect a washing up bowl to last good 5 years or so, similar to a normal one. So we can't claim longer. But we obviously have a home for it at the end of life, where most competitors would have no home. They would just assume that you're going to buy it and then at some point chuck it away.
Thank you.